He did. He blinded us with science. The electropop pioneer, Thomas Dolby, released his last single 20 years ago. He's here to tell us why he's back with a new album and a UK tour. Minutes before 9 now. It's been 20 years since electro-pop musician Thomas Dolby made his last solo album. During his break from the industry, he headed to California's Silicon Valley, where he used his technological talents to create a synthesizer which plays ringtones in mobile phones.
So it's all his fault. He's returned to the UK now and the recording studio, where he's written a very personal album reflecting on his life. And before we meet him, let's hear his new single, Toad Lickers.
Ew.
Here come the toad lickers with snacking attitudes. Gallon of paint stripper, horse pills and rubber tube. Tank up on Dr. Pepper, twiglets and Jaffa cakes. Long trail of sweet wrappers, swirling in our wake. Forget your blues, forget your punk and funk and Christian rock and roll.
Toad Lickers?
Yes.
Hello, Thomas.
Hello.
Who are they, the Toad Lickers?
A tribe of eco-hippies holed up in the Welsh mountains who sneak into town at night when they get the munchies and raid skips behind supermarkets.
True?
Absolutely, every word.
What's the evidence for it?
My song, of course.
But I don't know, is there some kind of urban myth surrounding them, Toad Lickers?
Well, there is actually licking toads. I mean, it's more likely to put you in the emergency room than on cloud nine.
Yeah.
But there's a wonderful anthropologist called Wade Davis who wrote a chapter of his book about licking toads.
OK.
We should say welcome back, because it's been a long time since we've had an album from you. And it's lovely to hear it again. Why so long? Why do you take time out of
I thought I'd take a
albums?
couple of years off at the beginning of the 90s because I was very interested in technology, and I went to Silicon Valley where the action was. The music business was not doing well, and it turned into about 15 years, and it was a bit of a fluke really, because my company Beatnik started out making very cool music apps, a bit like the ones you can download now to your iPad or your iPhone, interactive music experiences for regular people, which were very, very popular and made no money whatsoever. And we would have probably gone up in smoke like so many other dot-coms at the end of the 90s. But by accident, Nokia came along and licensed the synthesizer that we'd made and put it in their phones. And it's been in every phone that they've made since 1999, and most of their competitors as well. So it adds up to about 3 billion phones.
Do you get a royalty for every synthesizer that goes into each phone?
It's a very personal question.
So is that a yes?
So every time we hear da 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 da, that's you.
Yes, but it's not. I mean, you can't
And you
blame
go
me.
ka-ching.
No, I mean, it was an obscure waltz written in the 19th century, so you can't blame me for that too.
And we remember in the 80s from, let me see, One of Our Submarines, and then the track you did with Magnus Pike, Blinding Me with Science, and things like that, when you were sort of very much a technical pop guy. What brought you back to the studio?
I needed to get back to music, which is my first love, really. I wanted to come back to England. I've been living in California for over 20 years. I've got 3 kids, and I wanted them to have the experience of growing up in England, going to English schools. And I wanted to get back to music and get in front of audiences again. So I'm absolutely loving that, and you know, about to go out and do that in Britain for the first time since 1990-something.
You mentioned your children, and one of the songs is very personal because it concerns one of them. Tell us what it's about.
So there's a song on my new album called Simone, and it deals with quite a tricky issue, which is transgender. And when I was writing the song, I had no idea, but the eldest of my children, Harper, is a transgender kid. Harper is now 20 and in his 2nd year at university, and was a biological female, and lived as a female until age 16, 17, and then came out to myself and my wife and said, I'm in the wrong body. I want to live as a man. And it was quite a shock at the time, but he has now gone through transition and is living very, very happily, and happy really for the first time in his life.
16, did you say?
It was about that age when we found out. Yeah.
And it came as a surprise to you at the time, but I suppose it happens to quite a lot of people who feel that they are in the wrong gender body, if you like?
We were amazed. I mean, Harper educated my wife and I about 200 years of history, social, medical, legal history surrounding transgender issues, and recent genetic studies which show that there's a whole spectrum, really, of gender in our species, and about indigenous island cultures where there are multiple genders. And it was all fascinating, but it's a new frontier, really, because I don't think our society is very equipped yet to deal with it.
How long did it take you as a family to deal with it?
I think it was easier for Harper's siblings and for his friends. I think that kids these days are generally more relaxed about gender and sexuality than my generation. So it was a little bit harder because, you know, we'd grown up with him, we'd changed his nappies, you know, but so, you know, it's good now. It's great to see him happy. That's the main thing you want for your kids, more than anything. And I think that for other families, you know, I think it's very difficult for a lot of families to accept this.
The album's called The Map of the Floating City, and your project is never straightforward, is it, with your work? You don't just go out and buy them, because you released it as 3 different EPs, if I remember correctly. And there's a Map of the Floating City game. Where is the Floating City? How do I get there?
I suppose the floating city's in my mind, really, but I do my work. I live in East Anglia on the coast, and I do my work in a converted lifeboat, and I stare out through my periscope at container ships going in and out of a nearby port. And so I got this idea, seeing these sort of archipelagos of floating cities going out to sea, to come up with the album and with a game surrounding it. And it's a new way to reach out to fans, because, you know, a lot of younger fans...
You can play it online, can't you?
Yeah, you can play it online at floatingcity.com. But a lot of younger fans have never heard of me. They were too young to remember. So now that I'm going on tour, which starts tomorrow, I'm hoping that, you know, I'll get some younger fans in, having connected with them via the game and the website.
Absolutely. Thomas, thanks very much.
Pleasure to have you back.
Thank you. A Map of the Floating City's out now. Tour starts tomorrow, is it?
Starts tomorrow, just down the road at Shepherd's Bush Empire, at Terry Wogan's old theatre.
Great stuff. Thanks very much.
The time just after 9. 4 miles.